Okay, I will apologize in advance. My keyboard clicks a lot when I type, so you'll hear that as I type. I'll try not to talk and type so then it doesn't seem that background noise in there. First thing I want to show you guys is how to submit assignments. So imagine like when you save all your work, yours will save in these big folders. And like I know some of you, no, this isn't it. I don't know what that's from. But so here's someone's assignment from last year, and there's all these, and you went in and you could see that if you follow through here, you can find the .java file. Unfortunately, I'm going to try to open them in NetBeans because it's the easiest way for me to do it. So don't submit just that, or else I can't open it. It's really hard to run because the way NetBeans builds everything. So this was that assignment. If I go to the source packages, and this is it. Just writing, just trying to run just this, it might have some issues because it won't know where to find these imports. Whereas if I can open the whole thing in NetBeans and get all these packages, it'll understand. So the way that you would do that, I'm going to just close this, um, is you just right click the whole folder, and then yours will be, you won't have 7-zip, but you will go send to and then compressed zip file. That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't get access denied, but um, so you won't get that at school. I don't know why that's doing that, but basically I would do this here. Um, Same idea. It would zip it, and then once you do that, in here it'll have everything. Because then what I do is I just go up to File, I go to Import Project from Zip, and then I just browse. I go into my NetBeans projects here, and then I just click on this, open, and then when I hit import, it'll make this and this folder show up and it'll show up here. You could also go to export project to zip, but and then when you do that, I might get an error that's trying to do it again. And it actually, let's see if I go to my folder here. It actually like wrote one here, probably the same one, but you can do it that way too. It's just if you have it closed and you're like, oh shoot, I didn't submit that, and then just submit the whole zip file. When you um, when you try to submit, I know if I go to edit this one here, if I go to add, you'll add file just like you did last time, and then you can just drag that zip in here, and then hit upload, and then that should work. So I'll keep that scheduled for tomorrow. You didn't see any of that because it was on a different screen. So if I edit this, basically you just go add and then file, and then you can drag it in from here or find it from your device, and then click upload and it'll upload. So keep that scheduled now that you actually saw that. So today what we're going to do, because most of our assignments we're going to make them as graphical user interfaces, short form for GUI, or slangly called GUIs. We're going to learn how to make these. So I'm going to go up, make a new project. I'm going to just make a Java application. Now, I know in there it's like we can make this, and then it shows you how to go through it. I'm going to show you the easier way of doing it. Just make a Java application. I'm going to call it my first GUI. Keep the main class creating. Make sure you save it somewhere where you know. Finish. Now we can't do anything. So the old style of doing it would be very similar to how you would do it in Python, and you would in here type out line by line and try to place it, and then you'd like run it and see if it plays properly, which is very tedious. And that's why I like using NetBeans. And if you ever want to do it yourself, you can use what's it called? Eclipse. Eclipse as well does it nicely. They have the GUI builders in it. So you just right click on the package. So to explain this a little bit better, this is the whole project. The project is the coffee cup here. Then these are folders of all your projects. And then here, this is the package. And hence why it looks like a package. And then in your package are all your files. And that's why here it has, it auto creates that it's in this package. So then it knows where to find everything. We're going to make multiple files at some point. So the package part helps it know if they're all in the same package together, they can instantly work and find each other. The reason why we use imports is because in our, like when we imported the scanner isn't in our package. So we had to say, go find that package and then use it as if it is the same thing. That's kind of what the import does. So if you right click and go to new, if you don't see JFrame form here, what you just do is go to other. You click on Java and then, or actually swing GUI forms, and we will just use the JFrame form. Don't use the JPanel form, use the frame one. It already comes nicely built. I've actually not used any of the other ones before. But when you click next, I'm going to call it basic frame, and I'll just hit finish. It's going to, this is where it's telling it to go. So it's going to go into this project, which is where I want it. It's going to go into this package here. And once it makes it, it'll show up like this. Again, this is why you have to submit the whole thing, because these, the code, it auto generates things. So be careful you can't actually edit anything here. You get an error, but be careful, because if any of this messes up or any of this auto code is not there anymore, it'll actually, like any of this, if you delete any of this by mistake, the only way around it, other than tracing through and seeing what you messed up, is to just restart it. So just any of the stuff that gets preloaded, don't touch it. But if I try to run just this, it actually screws up a lot more because of the way that NetBeans runs it. So that's why I need you to submit everything to me. For now, you just want to be in the design tab. So we're going to be in the design and source tab between it. And in the design tab on the right-hand side, most of the stuff that we're going to deal with right now is just in these swing controllers. So labels just make text, or it can be an image, or both, it says there. Mainly I use it for text to actually just like tell someone what's going on. So like if I would put here, enter first name. Enter first name. And when you make it, it automatically in the navigator down here names it just JLabel1, and it tells you it is a JLabel. So this is the variable name of it. So in order to edit the text, the easiest way to do it is right click and edit text, and all the labels, what I should be doing is giving it a variable name as well. So then in here, when we're doing these, you're not labeling it JLabel1, JLabel2, all the way to like 20. You want to make sure everything has it. So I'm just going to put F name, and I'm going to put LBL. I'm going to put capital N, and LBL is short for label. BTN will be short for button. And I don't really use a short form field. I just write out the word field. So that these things do nothing other than when I run this, and I'm just going to right click run file here. When it shows up, it might show up on my other screen, so I got to keep an eye out for that. But when it shows up here, it's just text that shows up. You can't do anything with it, but this is what the frame looks like. You can obviously stretch it out on the screen here, and it'll make it bigger. This automatically is coded to actually close it, to maximize and actually minimize it. When you close it, the program starts running. If you don't close it from there and you just minimize it, the program will keep running, and after a while, everything will start to slow down if you have too many of them running. So make sure it's always stopped. And you'll notice that in Java, when something's running, this green progress bar is showing that something's running. And if it ever freezes on you, you can actually just close it from here. And it's like, do you want to for sure cancel this? Yes. And then it shows that you actually stopped it, like you hard stopped it. Almost like pulling the plug on it, or like pulling down the power button on your phone. So then it restarts on its own. Other things that we'll be using, and I'll show you guys radio buttons when I get back in checkboxes. And combo boxes as well, we'll be using a lot of text fields. And by default, they will fill whatever text you put in there. I usually leave them blank, but drag them out to a certain length so then they have length. And then when I edit text, just get rid of it. If you try to do it now, what ends up happening is it goes really small and then you have to pull it. And sometimes it's really hard to see it and you mess it up. So that's why right away I just default to stretching out as far as I want it, then editing text. And then here I would just say, okay, change the variable name to first name, or actually I'll just keep it as fname field. So I know that that's the text field that's going to be there. Again, like I said with the default, you can see here in the initialize components method where it makes everything, it's actually now made these for you. It uses a different type of syntax than what we will use, but like this just kind of like speeds up the process and it actually does all the code for you. So traditionally when I learned it, we actually type more than this and not as efficiently, but we would have to do this. Instead, NetBeans does this for us and we can just start using these things. I'll go back to design here. So if I want to add other things, most of the time, the only thing that we will use to start off to make things happen is we use these buttons. So I'll say go. And again, it defaults to certain positioning. You can have it so it lines up always with this. You can have them like line up exactly across from each other. They have relative positioning. That's why all these gray areas are here to show you where how it's gonna like align itself. So if you end up moving one of these, sometimes these things move too. Again, you can stretch it out, make it smaller, but we will always have some sort of button to make it work. So right now, I will change the variable name right away. Go btn. This will be the only thing that really, I'm air quoting, works. So when I run it, it's the only thing that's clickable. This here we can type in this, but nothing happens. So if I wanted to just put text on it, which I think that's what, kind of like the first thing I told you to do for fun is just like kind of have an about me. It's one where you wouldn't enter anything. You just kind of make big text, like just labels with everything on there. If instead you want to make it be a frame that does something, and I'm going to make this my title. So if I want to make it a bit bigger, being my title, I go over here to the properties, and on font here, I can actually go, okay, I don't like this one. Actually, I'll keep this one, but I'm gonna make it bold. And what is it right now? 11. That's not a good title one. And you can see it previews it for it. So if I go like this, and now I go, okay, 18 bold there, it'll actually change it. If I don't like, you know what, I want it to be a different color because I'm gonna be fun like that. Now this, as you can see, actually just makes the foreground of it. So it's actually going to be here. So it looks like when you do the editing of it, it looks like it'll be like in front like this. But it actually made the text red, which is what you want. There are other things here. You can center it. You can left justify, like, or vertically align it in this box. So if I had made this like this, see how it stays centered with it? Like it says, if I wanted to put it to the bottom, I could do that. What else is there? Borders, don't really want a border. Enabled, that one we'll use for other things. There's a lot of settings that you can do here. Bindings, you can bind, like when you bind things, it's just combining it with something else. Events we'll deal with a lot, but we won't actually use the properties for it, but not with our labels. We'll actually only do events on our buttons. And the last thing we'll normally have is, and this is where I just kind of make a bigger area for it, and I end up making it blank. And again, I make the bigger area, then make it blank so it stays like this. If not, I'll show you how awkward it makes this one. So I'm like, this is going to be where I'm going to then trying to drag this out. It takes a lot of time, but it's just easier. And this is going to be my output label. So what I'm going to do here is, and I think if I look at this one, how to make buttons work. No, that didn't open up the right one. Getting buttons to work, I actually asked you, or no, I think on this one, I think I said like create a program that takes a name and then sends a greeting back to the person. I'm going to do this one with you. You just kind of update the one we made in class to do something more. You can to get more information if you want. So to get buttons to work, it's here. What you end up doing is you're going to right click the button. You're going to go to events, and then you're going to go to action and action performed. I've actually, when doing this for a number of years now, I don't think I've ever used any of the other ones here. I know key I've used every once in a while. That's where you can make it so then if they press the enter key, it goes. I don't really like it as much, just in case of error. I just always use action and action performed, and then it takes you to this code here. And that's why we want to name everything right away, because when you do your action performed, it makes the method for you. You can't actually change it yourself. So I'm going to minimize this stuff because this one doesn't need to be here. This is where, when we do frames, we're going to do most of our coding. And the process is just this. Get the info from the field. Then we're going to process it. And then we're going to display it. So we're going to display it in the label or the output area. And an output area is just a text area. And it's just a multi-lined text field, essentially. And it's really nice because then you can have text keep scrolling. The label's only good for right now because if you want one thing to appear, it will. But more often than not, we're going to use an area because then it can have like multiple lines show up at once. Kind of like when we were going through and looping, it would print out everything one by one by one. This is going to do it here. So I go back to my source because I'm going to make it work. To get the info, again, with variables, now we actually have to tell it what it is. And because they're entering their first name, it's going to be a string. And it's going to, and I got to give it a name, obviously. So string name, I can't call it F name right now, but I can call it first name. It must be Sunday, I'm messing up a lot. And then all you have to do is you do F name dot, oh no, it's F name field, that's why. It should show up green. So see how it shows up green? Now I do my dot. And basically you want to do get text. And what that does is it literally grabs it and puts it somewhere. If, you know what, I'm going to add something to it right now. So if I wanted to, I'm going to do age here because the getText method, the issue with the getText method is it actually makes everything into a string. So this is my age label. This is my age field. So if I wanted to make it into an integer, in order to do that, we'd say int, which is our special integer thing, int age. And if you try this, age field dot get text, you get an error here that it says incompatible type. String cannot be converted to an integer because unlike Python that you just wrote age and then you wrote the number, this method of getText doesn't know how to make it into a number. So we have to cast it. And what we used to do before when we got text, remember we just did this into that. But this one doesn't work because of the way that string is a bit different in higher level languages. So it's a bit more typing, and that's, again, going to be the common theme of Java. And what you want to do is you use this method. So you use capital integer dot parseInt, and parseInt is a method that just takes a string and basically removes the double quotes to make it into a number. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take these now, and I'm not going to do any math with the age, but I just want to show you how to make it into a number. But now what I'm going to do is the output is going to be hello first name. Wow, you are. I know it's very cheesy. So my processing of the input right now is just to relay a message back to you, to be like, thanks for the input. I'm going to kind of talk to you like a computer would. There's no way of making it so then the first time I hit OK, go, this is what happens. The second time I hit go, this is what happens. You actually have to make a new you have to make a new form every time, so a new frame appear, which is tedious. So what we're going to do is just make kind of basic standalone things right now. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make the label show this. So I'm just going to do output label dot set text. And when I hit tab, it just auto defaults to putting in the only string it knows of that it thinks it would go in there. Sometimes it would show first name, and you'd be like, no, I don't want to output the first name again. I want to put this beautiful message that I spent time writing. And when I run this, so I'm just going to Shift F6 a lot more now. And you can hit tab and go through it, but then when I click it, wow, you're 30 years old. If you wanted this text to be italicized or a different way, you could obviously do that. But this is just how to get information from the field, how to process it, and then how to do it within this action performed. And that's going to be the basis of a lot of our assignments. We're going to make them more interactive this way, rather than it being just text that appears down in this area here all the time, because that's it's a bit tedious and a bit useless too. You're not going to do that too much. You're going to make actual standalone programs.